And we are live. Oh my gosh. Hi, you guys.
Hello.
Hi.
So excited tonight to be talking about some ghost stories. And tonight we're going to do fact or fiction. And I have the story to tell you. So, Kara, what do we have in store?
Well, we have a couple of different stories that are from Illinois, but they are both kind of well, one of them is definitely it's called the Seven Gates of Hell, and I can't wait to tell people about that one because that is pretty wild. And then we have one that dates back almost 1600 years with the Cahokia Mounds, which was a ancient Native American city that has a lot of supernatural um, activity attached to it. And I know Brandy is telling us a super duper haunted house story.
Yeah, mine's from New
Ooh.
York though. It's not from Illinois. And pardon the coughing in the background. I have a dog that has heart failure, and the
Oh,
humidity's getting to him today.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
Oh,
I think I've heard him with the different weather changes. He gets,
Yeah, but he's
yeah,
19 years old, so he's
oh my.
yeah.
he's been around. He lived
Oh.
through my college days.
Oh. Oh, you know what? We're missing somebody tonight.
We are, Sandy at the last minute had to cancel. I think one of her grandkids gave her the flu. That's what she thinks it is. And so she was so disappointed. And she said she's come heck or high water. She's going to be here next week. She just, you know, kids get you sick. I
Yes,
know
they
this.
do.
Mhm.
I know this. My grandkid gave me COVID, so I mean, it's it's not fun.
If
But
I
we,
had a
Mm.
penny for every time a kid got me sick, I'd be rich.
me too.
Oh.
But
Sandra, get better in case you're watching.
yeah, I
Thinking
hope you
about
are watching,
you.
honey.
We look
Yeah.
forward to you coming back. Get well soon.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think we're going to start with our fact or fiction with Debbie tonight
Oh,
because
okay.
yeah, because we want people to get a chance to guess if it is real or imagined.
All right. Um, okay, so I'm going to tell you the story. And how this works is we're going to ask you if you think that it's true or false, fact or fiction. So this story takes place out west. And we're not going to say the location, but it is a ghost town that's from the 1800s and inhabited by as much as 4,000 people back in the day during that gold and silver rush time. The town began to decline in the early 1900s when railroad lines were rerouted and the mine stopped producing enough to sustain the population. As people moved away, the town began to show signs of disrepair, and by 1930, the last inhabitant had died, leaving the town completely abandoned. Being off the beaten path, um, the town was left untouched by humans for several decades. And in the 1960s, the ghost town fad became popular with tourists. I know my family loved to do that. We went to several of them. And the town was left, for decades. And in 1960s, the ghost town fad, oh, I just said that, became popular with tourists, and the town was rediscovered when people would take the back roads through the states that were the um, first photos of its ghostly inhabitants were captured. So people started going and taking cameras and taking pictures. Well, one family traveling in their station wagon with their 6 children came upon the town in the late 60s and decided to camp there. And the pictures on the camera showed an apparition that was caught in the general store of a woman whose face appeared to be kind of distorted with a frightening level of rage. When the family was never seen again, their station wagon and tents were found near the center of the town. That's scary enough right there.
Oh yeah.
Um, the tents had several slashes through the canvas. The state police chalked it up to some type of wild animal attack, but the pictures on their cameras told a different story. Since then, several people have been through this town and encountered several paranormal experiences, and including seeing a ghostly woman in the general store and the only hotel. Many reports state that wails and groans have been heard beginning at dusk, and several paranormal investigation teams have attempted to stay in the town overnight. With all of them not being able to do that, they can't last past 3 a.m. in the morning. So, due to the easiness, they, had to leave. But they had EVP recordings that caught children's laughter and turning into shrieks of terror, and a menacing woman's voice say, "Leave." Ugh. As well as what sounds like a bar fight and suddenly stops with the echoing sound of a gunshot. Now, I have personally been to this ghost town before. Not too many people are around. I will give you a hint that it has a park ranger, okay? And lots of curses on things there, including if you take anything from the grounds, you will regret it. So people that take things send them back with letters saying, "I'm really sorry I did this. I've got a curse on me." And it seems to take the curse off of them. So anyway, that is the story, Fact or Fictions. You guys have to figure that one out, which is really a great story. I love ghost towns. Let me know if you've been to one too, because I certainly have been to many, including this one. So is my story fact or fiction? Okay, Cara.
That
Hello.
is interesting.
Oh, yes.
I wasn't wearing my glasses. I was
I
like
see
trying
this.
to read. You guys catch that? Because I have to be all ready with everything, and I start to, and I'm like, "Oh shoot, what's that
We
word?"
already have a guess.
I know, Ruth. Hi,
Ruth's
Ruth.
jumping right in.
All right, Ruth. Hi, Angela.
So we'll save that guessing, I guess, later on. We'll
Yes.
Yes, at the end of the show. That way other people can
we'll
chime in as well.
recap now that I have glasses on. Hi, Ruth. I'm
Hello,
just
Ruth.
there we
Hi,
go.
Ruth. Uh, I am going to start us off with our first ghost story tonight. Um, and it's the Cahokia Mounds outside of uh, Collinsville. It's not far from Collinsville, Illinois. It's an actual national historic site. And see, it's beautiful. But inside those mounds, the Native Americans, beginning in around 600 AD, lived there. They built this, and it was an ancient Native American city until about the 1400s. And what's interesting is that there are certain parts of the Cahokia Mounds where people have definitely felt more uh, paranormal activity than others. Um, and some of the things were like there's unexplained shadows. There are unexplained shadows. You see how the mounds are and how they're built up. They're huge, and then there's also openings to go into into the, I guess, cave like areas and things. But people have seen shadows where you wouldn't normally see a shadow. You see how wide and bright it is. And even one person, the shadow was so clear that she actually could make out an object in the shadow's hand. Is that wild or what?
Yes, that is
Um,
kind of wild.
yeah. And there's balls of light. I mean, not just orbs, balls of light that are seen in this area. Um, in usually around dusk, sometimes late at night, depending, on when you were there. But there are actual orbs of light that are just like floating around like a bouncing ball. And
Wow.
countless visitors have described this in detail with these white. It's almost like they're white or off white. I thought to myself, what if it's like someone's spiritual aura floating around?
You know, when I was growing up in a haunted house, like you guys have also, we had balls of light that would just race through the house. They would race through the house, and we didn't know if they were, is that electricity? What the heck would it? It always chased my sister, by the way.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, so when we see orbs, a lot of times we can look to see, hey, this might be some spirits.
Oh, definitely. But that's not just the craziest thing that is seen or heard there. Um, a lot of people. Well, I'll start out with this one man that it's quite interesting. He was walking in between the mounds. There are several mounds because it was a city, and he was walking through this particular between two particular mounds when he felt a very unnerving feeling, like of sorrow or of pain, and he didn't feel it by any of the other mounds that he walked by. It was just between these two particular mounds. When he went back to the museum area and was talking to the woman who ran the museum and the little gift shop, and he described this feeling and which mounds it was, or were, sorry. Um, she said, "Oh, that's where the ancient burial ground is said to be, which is where they would bury, like we have cemeteries. That's where they would bury um their fallen family members and things in ancient times, and they called it an ancient burial ground. But yeah, it was weird. He didn't feel it on any other spot, but he just felt it right there and right where their ancient cemetery would have been. Is that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there's another thing that is very weird. There's a temple mound, and people have been known to walk up the stairs of the temple mound and walk back down. When they get to around the third uh, stair down from the bottom, tribal drums are heard echoing through the mounds of this temple mound. It is, and it's actual tribal drums. Sometimes they play one kind of drum thing, and sometimes it's a totally different beat. But it's always around those temple stairs.
That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And people have gone through the mounds, and on certain mounds, especially when they're near the top or the secondary base, they have felt, when there's no one else around, by the way, they have felt an intense feeling like they were being watched, stared down by something unseen. And they have looked around because they felt it behind their back, but it was always behind their back because they didn't see anything, but they always felt it on their back, like something was attached to them, following them, is what I would think. And there are cold spots around several of the mounds where the temperature, Illinois, especially in the summer, we could be pretty hot in southern Illinois. But there are spots where it's 20 or 30 degrees colder than 2 feet away.
That's
It
weird.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
huge dramatic job. And the last thing that I found interesting is I found a comment when I was researching some of the paranormal activity there. This group of friends was at the mount was visiting the mounds, and they were going up to the top of the second tier there, that top hill. Um, and they had been videotaping the whole time, and they're laughing and having a good time, and everything seems great. And they're up there, and then they're coming down, and they didn't have any problems. When they watched their videotape back, now mind you, nobody was there. Nobody. in the video, as they're walking up the stairs and the camera kind of shifts to the other side of the, you see how the stairs are divided? They saw a little girl skipping by down the stairs on the opposite side when there was nobody around them. And the girl was all alone. But it was just a image of a girl. Now, she didn't describe the clothing or anything, but it has to be a ghost.
Yeah.
There's no other child there.
Yeah. And you wonder too, what time zone, what time era the child was from,
Yeah, I couldn't find anything where she described what era the clothing was, or maybe they didn't get a good glimpse because she said it
Yeah.
was so fast on the video thing, but it was slow enough to where they could tell it was a little girl, maybe 6 or 7, maybe 8, but
Wow.
she was just skipping down the stairs, and like
Amazing.
kind of like she wasn't sure if it was a humming or a whistle or something she was doing, but there she said they were the only ones walking up the stairs of that mound. There was no one coming down at all the whole time. So,
Well, I think that, when they have imprint of energy or they have a spirit, especially there could have been an accident at some point that's in, and so that's why that child's there. The accident occurred there.
yeah, that's possible. I didn't think to look up any accidents. What do you think, Brandy? I know that you knew about the Cahokia Mountains being so close to, it being so close to the Missouri border. I know that it's been, something that people in the Midwest talk about.
I honestly think that a lot of the negative feelings that people get as far as being watched and followed and stuff is mainly because I think for those Native Americans that died there, they feel like their land is being trespassed on. There's outsiders there, and
Oh,
that they're trying to protect their land.
Absolutely.
that would yes, that
Mhm.
definitely makes sense. It does. I
And you know what? It's so weird, that feeling. And I think everybody's had it, of feeling like something is looking at you. And a lot of the time, we're right. We'll turn around and, there's the dog looking at you, or a husband, or whatever, the kids. And so when you get that feeling, to me, it's genuine. Something is looking at you. Turn around, nothing's there. And you go, well, something's there.
I can say that there have been, I have not gone by every single mound, but I have been there. Um, and there are parts where you're there where, the energy just feels sad. I haven't felt anything ominous, but maybe I wasn't near those parts, of the mounds. But you, there are parts where you definitely feel sorrow. You,
And it might also be that since you're an empath, that what you're picking up on is not the negative intentions or feelings. You're picking up on how they actually felt at their time. Maybe it was a disease that went through rampant and wiped out that village, or something else
Yeah.
traumatic happened,
oh
and there
yeah,
is a bunch of sorrow.
They had to leave their home. Maybe there was a
yeah.
point of drought and everything, and they had to go somewhere else. Can you imagine building all that up? And I did see an artist rendering, which I couldn't use on the show because I don't have permission, of what the village was like. And, them having huts all over the place, and this, that, and the other. And to have to leave something that you built up would be very sad, because people did have to go to where there was water or food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you just wonder why it just all of a sudden ceased to exist as a city. Did they have a fight with a rival native tribe or nation, or was, like you said, was it disease? Was it, famine? What took this beautiful ancient city and just, wiped it off of the proverbial map? and what kind of lingering that could be lingering sorrow too. Maybe that's what I picked up being there, just feeling,
Mhm.
maybe their sense of loss of what they had
Mm.
and and the loss of generations. It could be.
And for Native Americans, a lot of them, their stories are the land itself. You know, so
Yes.
leaving an area that they've built up that way, they're leaving behind their stories. Because they are close to the land that they live on. That's like
Yeah.
leaving part of their family if you really want to think about it.
I was going to say, yeah, the generational family, their ancestors, they're leaving everything behind.
That's sad.
But yeah. But if you guys ever get a chance to go to, it's not far outside of St. Louis on the Illinois side. It's the Cahokia Mountains. It's a historical site, and it's open to visitors. And they do have a museum, and they do talk about the life that the Native Americans had while they existed in the city. But I know I am looking forward to. I've been waiting for 2 weeks now to hear this story from Brandi. So I am going to shoot this over to Brandi so that we can hear her haunted house story.
Okay, so this haunted house has a slight twist to it. It is actually an apartment, which you don't really hear that much about. And it's funny because if you think about it, apartments have so many more occupants that go through them than a house would. But you don't really hear about haunted apartments. Now, this one is located at 455A Sackett Street in Brooklyn, New York. And it has an ominous presence to it, okay? Now, there's no history behind this apartment to decide why it is haunted or has such bad energy to it, but it has caused several bad happenings. So, there's one woman who grew up there, and she wrote an article about her firsthand experiences in this apartment. And this article included unexplained fires, serious bad energy, family tragedies, personal suffering, and the kicker of this was a body of a child was eventually discovered in the wall after several suspicious sightings of a similar looking shadow child in a
Oh,
mirror. Nobody knows who this child is or how long this child has been in this wall. Nobody knows. There's no missing child report for that apartment. There's no search for a child for that apartment. Like, parents saying, oh, my kid's come up missing, and they've actually nothing to signify what happened to this child and why it's in the wall. But yeah, so she did a very large article on what it was like to live there. And it wasn't just her, okay? So it's not just her accounts of this house. It's all the tenants that have ever revolved through this house, and the neighbors around this apartment also have, contributed their own parts to the story. The neighbors report that nobody ever lasts more than a year in this apartment. Like, as soon as their lease is up, they're gone. They don't stay any longer than they have to. Nobody renews the lease.
Not a good
No.
indication, no.
No. So in the 30s and 40s, this apartment was there, okay? A fire killed a little boy within a month of the family moving in. This is not the little boy found in the home or in the wall, okay? In the 60s, another couple were, and I'm using air quotations here, guys, whacked by the mob because of some insidious affair, but they don't ever describe what that affair was. And there were no records of any of this because the church that would have housed those records burnt down. So
oh,
all you have
Hmm.
is what people pass along. So you don't really know how much of this is factual, how much of it is exaggerated, because any of the permanent records that would have said these things no longer exist. They burnt. It just
Hmm.
that's kind of creepy to me, though. If you think about, it's not just seeing things or feeling things. People are dying in this apartment from unnatural things.
Right.
Yeah.
It's strange. And it's an apartment. It's not a house.
I've have friends that live in apartments that I've had to go to, or they've asked me to go to, because one, a young man committed suicide, hung himself. So yeah, they can be just as haunted as a house.
So it makes me wonder, though. You have that Ghostbuster law that says you can't sell a house without disclosing if it's haunted or not. Why is there not a law that establishes that for a rental property?
Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
the interesting thing is, did you check and see if New York is one of the places that has the Ghostbuster law?
I think that what I do believe it is, because I think one of the houses that originated from that law was based out of New York. Because there's a couple of
Oh.
houses that went into making that law as effect, and I think one of them was actually a New York residence that the family put down a
Oh.
down payment on the house, came to find out it was haunted, and then fought the people saying, I ain't paying for this house all the way. I want my money back. I don't want to live in a haunted house.
I think that where it originated was at a level where it would have been, covering all the states. So I know even here in California, they better say, you know what? The one thing about California, if it says it's haunted, it's a plus. They can get
Yep.
premium money for that place.
So the law that made the Ghostbusters ruling was Stambovsky versus Ackley, and it was a New York Supreme Court.
Right.
So
The
yeah, New
Ackley
York
House.
would be a part of it. So
Mhm.
it's funny that you don't have that same kind of protection as far as renting a place.
Yeah.
So you're like legally contracted to stay in this house for a full year, knowing that it's haunted, and with all these reports to the fore that it's being covered by articles from people who live in this apartment saying how haunted it is, and the landlord's still getting away with renting it. And the price in Brooklyn is not cheap. You're
Oh
paying
no.
a penny to live in this apartment.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the nicer neighborhoods. That's what makes it even funnier, is this nicer neighborhood that has this haunted apartment.
It's funny because when I visited New York in 2014, one of my friends took me to meet some of his friends who the apartment was like a 2-bedroom apartment, right, with 1 bathroom, but they converted it. They had like 6 people living there. They had a loft area with a curtain dividing 2 separate beds in this loft area, and they had all these different places where people were like sleeping, and they were all paying like $300 a month rent
Yeah, it's
each.
crazy.
And I was like, that isn't, I could never do that. But just the atmosphere of the building, I felt their particular building was just it was like how do I explain it as an empath? My heart was my chest was heavy. And I never thought about it until you started talking about this. I'm wondering if there are just some buildings that hold on to some kind of residual negative energy and kind of like curse the inhabitants through the negative energy.
And if you think about it, this apartment was standing in the 1930s. Back then, New York was rampant with crime and gangs, and just was not the best place to be. People died in their apartments almost every day. God only knows who all died in that place, especially since all the records burnt down.
Yeah.
So tracking what kind of negative energy could have attached itself to this apartment complex. But the fact that it's attached to just that one apartment.
Yeah, there could have been some of those apartments where people lived there for years and years and did the same thing over and over. That would imprint the energy. But I would think that's probably some people that came back or stayed as a spirit, which is different than imprinting. So they can, go. I get looky-loos in the house all the time. They float in. I had a motorcycle drive in my front door. A ghostly one attached to a guy, and it was all validated who he was and what was going on. And so, they can visit. And we have good energy, and we have good spirits. We have bad spirits and bad energy. And so, in that one apartment, you would think that if things are moving and doing all of that, that's going to be a spirit. And, that's what I usually have in my house, and they're moving things. They're just, hello, I'm here. But if there's negative energy, then we've got maybe something that moved in because there was a murder or fear or something that happened that will start what I call that scrabbly, that black inky stuff that can hang in as terror, fears, when something happened. And these things can grow, and then it attracts demons and things like that. So you can have some increasingly really evil things happening in that apartment.
I still think the most creepiest part, though, is the fact that they actually found the body of a child
Oh God,
in
yes.
the wall
Terrible.
after seeing that
Terrible.
ghostly image of that child in mirrors around the house.
Go, that's spooky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Do
is
you
kind of
guys
like
did you
it,
guys
it-
ever look in a mirror or walk by one and you think you see something?
no,
Yes.
I attempt not to ever look in a mirror because I don't. I'm afraid I'm going to break it.
uh, that to me is spooky because I grew up with that Mary Worth thing where you say that in the mirror
Bloody
and you
Mary,
hear.
Bloody Mary, Bloody
That
Mary.
one, yeah,
Oh,
I remember
Mary
that.
Worth was a cartoon. So, we were always afraid because we were doing that stuff. We were kids. So, and what can attract stuff if they use some kind of Ouija boards that came back from many, many years ago, years and years ago, it was invented. And there could have been some, some dabbling in the dark arts there too, as well. But the murder of a child and the horrendous thing of sealing a child up in a wall had to be terror on so many great levels
Yes.
that that had to affect that apartment.
Yeah,
Oh
it had to
yeah.
add to what was already being reported happening there. Because that child had to be entered after the original beginning reports started. As far as
Yeah.
it started back in the 20s and 30s, that the reports started happening with the hauntings, and but still, it just
Yeah, she was killed by somebody who lived there, because who else could build the wall and seal her up?
yeah,
So to me, that ongoing evil person probably was living there for a while.
Yeah.
Probably said, "Oh yeah, I put my kid on the train to go to grandma's house." Who would know? Who would
well,
know?
heck, back then they could have shipped him with a postage stamp.
Oh yeah,
I
they
know.
used to do that. They used to deliver children cross country to their grandparents and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I
And they've
can't
got
I'm
believe
the
pretty sure my own
pictures.
parents would have liked to have been able to do that with me at some points when I was a child.
You see the little kids in the pictures with a little mailing label,
Yeah,
Yeah.
necklace, tells them where they're going and postage paid.
yeah. Mine would have
That
had
is so
to
scary.
telling them where I'm going, postage page, and watch your fingers. This one bites.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
funny.
it is
That's
a good one.
But now
Oh,
we're gonna delve into hell.
How
oh,
fitting.
It is fitting, and we're going to travel way back from New York all the way to Southern Illinois again because they just can't get enough of evil places. We're going to talk about the seven gates of hell. Now, this is one of the bridges that is known as part of the seven gates or seven bridges of hell or to hell. This is located traveling around Lebanon Road in Collinsville, Illinois. By the way, not too far from the Cahokia Mounds. Just saying. This was home to seven abandoned railroad overpasses from the 1800s. These railroads were used for mining in the 1800s, and I'm not sure if when the maybe mining decreased or what, but they're now abandoned. They're not used anymore. But these bridges and road have the reputation of being one of the most, or if not the most people say, haunted road in the state of Illinois. Aside from the cold spots that you feel and feeling watched near these bridges when you stop, especially at night to take pictures or check out the area, and the orbs that are seen that have been caught on film, there are a few urban legends that are associated that compound the hauntings of the area. But we're going to talk about the hauntings first before we get into any urban legends. One of the bridges or gates with the number, it's the number 2 on the trail, has one of the most horrific paths. And there are 3 different versions of the story, and it's they're not sure which one is accurate for the haunting. But I'll tell you about the different reports, and then you guys can just decide which one you think is more likely to be the cause. The apparition that is seen there has caused much debate. The first story is that a young man fought with his best friend and hung him from the overpass of the bridge in a jealous rage over a girl. And secondary to that story, but adding to it, there is also an addition saying that once he realized what he had done to his best friend in the whole world, that he hung himself next to his best friend from the overpass. And the third story, I think, is the most disturbing and heartbreaking. But it was said that a young African American boy, and I tear up because this is sad, was being chased by the Ku Klux Klan. And they caught him on that bridge and they hung him. They lynched him from that bridge. And no matter which story is true, they're all horrific, they're all sad, and they're all disturbing. But one of the things that they all have in common is that if you are there at midnight, you can see the apparition of a hanging body swaying in the wind and the breeze, almost as if he's waving you through to the next gate. And that is terrifying. I don't think, as an empath, I could possibly stop near that bridge around midnight. I think it would break me.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And then there's, when you go away from Bridge 2 and you go through Bridge 3 and in between Bridge 3 and 4, you're going to find a lot of evidence of people performing satanic rituals. And yeah, they have found on the side of one of the embankments in between Bridge 3 and 4 the remains of several animals in a mass just pile up, like very weird stuff. And if you're by Bridge 4 and you stop your car or you have your window down, you will hear the revving of an engine of a car coming towards you through the Bridge 4, through the underpass. But no car ever emerges. The sound just stops. And several people, bloggers, paranormal investigators, have witnessed this sound. And there was even one blogger who, on the other side of Bridge 4, found a white trash bag that had a baby calf carcass in it.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I mean, weird stuff around these 2 bridges. Very, very, very heavy. No wonder they talk about it being the gates of hell. But there's there's a lot of overgrown vegetation where these little bodies are found too. It's um
Kara, we have a place here near where I live, where they built, this new construction under the freeway. And they did that. Part of it was to improve the freeway, but also thrown off that lower old highway was a girl. And so I've been there, and it's the creepiest thing ever. The animals and the insects can be controlled. You can ask them questions, and they'll be completely quiet, and then they will make all this noise. And the one thing that attracts people, these sick puppies in the world, which are these people that go and do all these ritual sacrifices and defacing everything and doing all this dark magic, and they find burns. Like these people will make bonfires. They will leave little squirrels that they've done things to, and they will write all kinds of things there and do their thing. And so you're going to have not only the hauntings there for whatever reason, you've got these people doing this dark magic, and writing on there and making
yeah.
fires and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this gets even weirder as you go through, and when you get gate 6 has a kind of unique nickname of the Acid Bridge, because a group of teens who were driving around tripping on LSD rammed into either inside the bridge, crashed into one of the pylons there outside the bridge, and it was a horrific fiery crash that led to their deaths. And people see their deaths reenacted, like they have to reenact this death all the time. So they're reenacting their death scene. It's
That's
very,
imprinted. That's energy imprinted in that space.
yeah. And now there are two urban legends associated with these bridges. But I think we miss a comment. Brandy's dad had a comment, and now I don't see it.
No, he's trying to comment, but for some reason on his end, it's not letting him add a comment.
Oh,
Quick
okay.
call out. My parents are actually watching the show tonight, and I'm so happy
Yay.
that they're there and thankful that they joined us tonight. And I'm sad that they can't post, but at the same time, I'm probably glad that he can't, because he might embarrass the heck out of me if he could.
That's okay.
I don't know why they can't post, but they can text you or something. They're
Yeah.
calling.
Yeah, if he has a comment, I'll read these urban legends. Tell him to text you what he wanted to say, and then you can read it. You can read it out to the broadcast. Do that so he can get his comment out there.
Yep, I texted him telling him to let me know what he wanted to say, and one of us would read it out loud for everybody. It is very embarrassing.
Yeah, there you go.
And there's no shame in my game.
Yeah, well, it might break the ice with these two horrible urban legends that are associated with these bridges. Now,
Very true.
the first one is, if you travel. Now, mind you, these bridges are not super close together. It's a few miles in between these. But if you travel through the bridges in order from 1 to 7, and you enter the underpass, Bridge 7, Gate 7, at exactly midnight, it is said that a portal from hell opens, and that hellhounds come to drag you to hell. Now, there have been some disappearances that I associated, or people have said there have been disappearances. I couldn't find any actual like police reports or anything, but that could be part of the urban legend. And the second one is kind of even freakier. I think I would not do the first one, but the second one I might, just for the heck of it. Now, the second one is, if you travel in reverse from 7 to Gate 1, a tear, TEAR, tear in reality happens, and you get a glimpse into hell when you look back, either out your back window or through your rearview mirror. You get a glimpse into hell.
Those are good stories.
Yeah, it's I personally have never tried them. I don't know of anyone. I saw a few things from some bloggers who did attempt the reversal. I shouldn't say bloggers, I should comments online. And it wasn't quite a glimpse into hell, but they did feel something. They did feel something very dark and very ominous on the backwards travel.
Those are great stories, but I think they're just stories.
Yeah, that's why I said they're urban. Those two are urban
Yeah.
legends. The other
Yeah.
ones, there's actual
Um,
proof with pictures and things.
so the person who just commented is my father. He figured it out. Yay! And he is also very knowledgeable about a lot of things. So
Oh, wow. Don.
Oh, verification,
That,
validation.
yes,
Yeah.
that is validation that the ghost there may be one of those victims, because it never said when the person was hung. And but in that KKK variation, he was being chased through the woods, and this is now more urban, so it was probably way back. Wow. Thank you
Amazing.
so much. That gives us, that really leads to the ghosts and the validation that people have seen and felt. I think I would feel a lot of the fear that went on with that young man.
can
I think that
can
would
I
be.
just say that I passed a lot of history tests just because I had him as a dad?
Well, thank you, Don. Don seems like he was a lot like my dad in the history that was pounded into my brain. I can't tell you, Don, how many times our family vacations turned out to be me sitting on a cannon at a Civil War battlefield or at a Revolutionary War field. I mean, yeah, my dad was really into history.
Well,
You
I
were
mean, ours was more
lucky.
spent around campfires and fishing and outdoors, and we was that camping family that, God, I miss those days. Those were so fun. But we still, he made sure that history was factual and not technically what the school wanted us to learn.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
we did a lot of camping too on our treks. That's how we usually got around. But what do you guys think of these? Do you think there's a lot of paranormal activity that is just embedded in there, or just residual energy from the tragedies?
But just thinking about what black slaves in general went through, I would not have a hard time believing that there is bad energy attached to that at all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's
definitely.
I think it's residual hanging out there and all of that. And I think the thing when it got on to be that urban legend is because people just went out there to get to scare themselves and maybe party or maybe do a little dark stuff. And so it's just kind of building up. I'd have to be there to see if I really feel like there was a spirit actively doing something, but definitely, that is infused with a lot of people, even the people that go and do, just to scare each other or whatever. Those places tend to be haunted because we have all this scary energy left.
Yeah. Now it's we're at the part where we need to recap. Ooh, we'll have to have, if Don's got some paranormal things, we might have to have him on here to tell us some history and some paranormal activity that he
That
may have.
was the one story I was telling you about, Kara, that I wish my dad could come on and tell you about because it is an incredible story.
We need to have him
You
on as
can
a
do it.
guest.
Yeah, it's easy. You
Yeah,
can go on.
we'll have to have him on as a guest. Now we're gonna recap our initial fact or fiction story about our ghost town out west and the tragedies and the disappearances and the unexplained EVPs that went on. Debbie's going to give like just a little synopsis uh of her story, and then we're going to let everyone vote and see if you think it's fact or fiction? And
And
remember,
we've
we have
already
prizes.
had one guess. Ruth's already given her
Yeah,
guess.
and remember, we do have a prize, and to be entered into a drawing for a bigger prize at the end of the month. So take it away, Debbie. Give your little recap, and we'll vote.
Okay, long time ago, and there was a ghost town. The people all left. Everything was depleted, so time to move on. But a lot of stuff happens in ghost towns. A lot of people live there, several thousand. But in the 1960s, there was a fad, and I know my family was part of it. We would go to the Sierras. We would go to Yosemite. We would be all over the place in other states, and we'd always go to the ghost town. So the thing is that people started going and finding out that this one town was, haunted, especially by this one woman, and she'd be captured on, cameras and stuff. And paranormal investigators would go out there camping, and they would, set up their equipment, and they would get EVPs, but they couldn't stay. It was so scary and everything. They would usually leave by 3 a.m. in the morning. So anyway, we've got a real paranormal a town, and lots of wails and groans, and children laughing and then screaming in terror, all the stuff going on. But the one thing that they did catch was like sounds of like a bar fight, and then after that an echo, like a shot on the EVP. I personally been to this ghost town before. Okay, so there's the recap on it. And so, is that fact or fiction? That story.
Is Deborah telling the truth, or is Deborah fibbing? Brandi, what is your guess? Do you believe she is telling the truth, or do you believe that she's fibbing?
I don't know. Debbie has seen some really wild things in her life, and theaters, and gosh.
Remember, there's a curse there too. If you take anything, it's not good. The people
And I've
always
heard of places like that where people will actually take rocks and end up mailing them back because they're
pieces
actually
of
cursed.
glass or anything. Yeah, they mail them back with a letter, and they have a little
Oh.
Oh,
museum.
well, my dad's saying fibber, and I always go with my dad.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna change it up, and I am going to go the opposite way of you, just to be obstinate tonight, and I'll say that it's fact. Now, do we have? And we had Ruth's guess. Ruth had said that one was fiction at the beginning, and so now, Debbie, were you telling a lie? Was it fiction, or were you telling the truth? Does this town exist?
And if you're telling the truth, did you take something from there? I've got to know.
Actually, I didn't take anything from there because of all the signs up in the museum saying that with the people writing in, and they would document all the stuff that they brought back was in the museum. So I'm partially telling the truth. This is a story that has other people involved in it. Yeah, so true things in there, but no, it's a hoax. So yeah, I'm kidding.
There we go.
Yeah, we pulled from people's real life and kind of created this. But it is true that I used to go to the ghost towns, and there was a curse on Bodie. And Bodie I used to go a lot to. And so don't ever take anything, because people just list all the bad luck that they had after they left with that, piece of glass or whatever. They had huge building there because, gold mining or whatever. And with the blue glass, the old blue glass, and it breaks and falls, and people pick it up. Oh, this is my souvenir. And that was really not good. And they would ship it back. So, but yeah, it was made up from a lot of true things, but there's no such ghost town. That one is fake.
Ah.
So,
My dad saved my butt because you almost had me sold on the part with the stuff that you take home and then you have to send back because it's on. I'm telling you, I heard the story about. I think it was probably that time you was talking about at the end
yeah,
that
Bodie.
people
Yeah,
will send it back and it all gets put in like a little museum with a
yep,
list of reasons of why it got sent back and by who.
yep.
That's
And
the
they
same with
list
the
everything bad that happened to them, and it's just,
that's the
crazy.
same with the St. Valentine's Day massacre wall from Chicago. It's in a museum in Las Vegas, but people who had gotten those bricks when they were auctioned off, those bricks were actually cursed and were sent back.
So, two people were right, and I've got hell notes. So if you the people that got it right, usually we have a drawing. I got lots of these. And if especially if you live, I don't have any international stamps, but if you live in the United States, you can get me your address through psychicfixes at Gmail, and I would be happy to send you a hell note. You guys know what these are. They're so neat. Okay, so these are money for the dead people. You can look it up on the internet, Hell Notes. And if you want one, I will put one in an envelope and mail it to you. I just need your address. If you were correct on the on our game, I'm going to send one to you. But send me your address, and I will send you a Hell Note.
And once again, Dad, we would love to have you on the show to tell us your Wentworth story because it is an amazing story. I remember hearing it when I was younger, and it's really, you guys should hear the story.
Yeah, we would love to have you on if you're available in a couple of weeks. I know next Saturday we have our show planned out. But we would love to have you the week after that. That would be awesome.
Yep.
I
See,
put
I
a
already broke them, Dad. They're calling you Dad too, so now you're everybody's dad again.
That's right.
The only thing is, I'm old enough to be you guys' mom. So,
Well, you would have been a teen mom with me. Brandy's 10 years younger than me, so she's you probably could have had her, but you would have been like 15 years old if you had me.
oh, okay, that wouldn't have happened. Okay, well, this was
I
so much fun.
guess I'm always the baby out of everything. That
That
means
is
you got to
true.
be
You know
nice to me
what?
because I'm the baby.
I had years and years of that. Everybody, all my friends, everybody around was older, and it's a good place to be. Absolutely,
Well,
to be the
I'm going to bring
youngest.
back a memory from my dad, not the mama. I'm the
Oh my
baby, not
God.
the mama.
Dinosaurs.
Yep,
Yes,
we loved that
dinosaurs.
show.
It wasn't it fun. Oh, it was fun. That
Oh
little
yeah.
baby one was cute.
Oh yes.
But it's just about time for us to go. So let's do a little thing on the books because there may be a teaser that you can tell everybody about, Cara.
Yes. Well, all of our hard work is paying off, and this is our first book, and we do have a second book, The Past Lives of Deborah O'Hara, Karma at Karnak Court, and then very soon it will be hitting the Amazon. We are going to have The Past Lives of Deborah O'Hara, Mystery at the Columbian Exposition, which takes place in my hometown of Chicago in the 1890s. And I'm so excited that we are almost complete with the book and it's going to be going into editing this week. And we are going to hopefully have it up on Amazon in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, maybe less. But it's a wonderful book. This is a wonderful book series. Um, you know, we started the book series. I wrote my first book, which is The Shadows of Satan, Terror in the Mountains. And then I took a break from writing anymore with that because the series was just so, as Debbie and I always say, juicy.
Yes.
And so we're going to be having several books by the end of the year in this series, and I'm just so excited that this one is going to be coming out. And then we also our show next week is going to pay homage to not only our book series, but Brandi's book series.
Oh,
And we are going to be talking about serial killers and mass murderers that claimed to be possessed by the devil.
I'm putting your book up there.
Oh, there it is. So we're going to be talking about serial killers that are possessed by the devil and some of the paranormal that has also been shrouded around some of these different serial killers or their haunted grounds.
Well, that's exciting. We are at the top of the hour.
So when you ladies are ready to send me your books to edit, I'm waiting. I have tea going. I'm good to go.
All right. Yeah, give us a few days.
I don't know. I've seen Cara work. It might not be a few days, so I'm ready. I'm
Mm,
prepared.
It might be a few days for me. Okay. Well, we're excited about that third book coming out, and we'll let you guys know all about it. But it is time to get going and prepare all the serial killer stuff for next Saturday.
You all have a wonderful evening, and we will see you next week with some fun stuff.
Bye,
See ya.
Brandi's parents.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.